everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Magical Jill, and today we are talking about Nintendo again! Yay! We are also talking about the Palworld lawsuit type thing. And no, I am not just milking this topic for views, thank you very much.
Well, actually, if we were doing that, I think it would be much smarter to just do it every video, because this is our best hitting topic.
That's true.
And we keep waiting like a week or two every time there's news on it to talk about it so that we can actually cover other things. Because right now we're doing a lot in our own time and on other channels. But I think that this is interesting because they actually brought in one of the patent attorneys, like someone who does know their stuff in Japan, who essentially suggested that this entire thing is kind of not worth it. The idea here is that Nintendo might be wasting upwards of millions in US dollars, at least, in order to pursue damages that don't exceed a couple $100,000 US dollars at most. I believe it's actually closer to like 70,000 US dollars when you translate everything.
Yeah, they're asking with this lawsuit for the people who made Palworld Pocketpair to pay them 10 million yen, and in American money, in case you're American like I am, that's about $66,000-ish in our money. Mm-hmm. So not that much. Not that much at all.
No, but it could actually mean burning millions of dollars, basically, in court.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a look at this today for a few minutes, but we do have a question of the day for you in general, which is, what do you actually think that the reasoning behind this could be? Do you think that it is a genuine pursuit of, like, truth in the legal system? Or do you think that this is dragging your competition to court, forcing everyone to spend millions, and obviously one company has more millions to spend?
I think it's the second one.
I do too. And if you don't want to answer that question, because it is a bit loaded, what is the most insane legal situation you've seen around video games?
Oh, that one's a good one too.
That's actually what I'm wondering about, because I've seen a lot of them, like lawsuits with GTA and all kinds of other stuff, like, GTA used a character that looked kind of like me, I'd like $10 million. I've seen so many things like that. So, if you have an example of that, I'd love to see it. But Jill, this is something interesting to me because they brought in this lawyer, and we're looking at a couple different articles today. One's from PC Gamer, one is from Automation Media, and this lawyer was a Japanese patent lawyer. I believe you pronounce their name as Kiyoshi Kurihara, who actually talked about what is going on in court, what could be going on in court, and the potential payouts around what this case could become, even if Nintendo wins.
I know, I thought it was extremely interesting because this person basically went on to say that Nintendo has some of the top lawyers in Japan working for them right now. And as you guys can imagine, I mean, even here just in America, lawyers are freaking expensive. Like, expensive. Mm-hmm. And basically, people are thinking that they wouldn't recoup the amount of money from the lawsuit that they're asking for with the $67,000 or, the 10 million yen. That wouldn't cover the costs of what they paid for to have this whole lawsuit go on. So Nintendo employed lawyers from TMI Associates, which is Japan's one of their top 5 law firms. And that has like multiple bases across Japan, some other places.
Yeah, Singapore, Silicon Valley, they're even in London.
They're a very big company.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other hand, Pocketpair is also being represented by some major international law firm, which is called Nishimura and Asahi, and I hope I said that right.
We're not the best at pronouncing things, we know that.
With both parties enlisting high-profile legal teams, Kurihara comments, "Although it's a crude point to bring up, I can't help but think that Nintendo may not be able to recoup the legal costs even if they win. The exception would be if Nintendo were to increase their claim amount from the current 10 million yen, which is around $67,000 USD, as we mentioned."
One of the craziest things to me here is the translation rate. I know it's going to be different for exchange rates for anything, but the fact that 10 million yen is 67,000 USD.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering about that.
I'm not saying yen is worthless or anything. I'm just saying I think it's interesting how different those numbers are.
Yeah, because if you think about $10 million USD, that's a way bigger price tag,
So if they had said 100 million yen, that still would have only been something like $670,000 in US.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
I feel like I'm surprised they didn't do something like $1 billion yen.
I'm surprised about it too.
I don't know if there's caps on what they can ask for. I do know that, you know, in courts across the world, depending on what you ask for, there will be times where they look at those damages and say, you can't even ask for this. We're not gonna give you anywhere near that, you know? In this case, I don't really know, but I do think it's interesting because in general, Palworld is still chugging along. Like, they're having a Terraria crossover. You know, they have a lot of suitors looking into their company, like people who want to work with them, from Sony to even, you know, Microsoft having it on their consoles, and basically everybody's kind of courting Palworld.
Well, yeah, I mean, from the perspective of a businessman in the gaming industry, you look at Pocketpair and you see a lot of potential with how successful their game got. It's a lot like how Minecraft became so successful after just one guy started making it, and then so on and so forth. Eventually Microsoft bought it and it became this huge thing, and now look at it this many years later, it's a huge brand.
Right.
Pocketpair has those similar characteristics, I think, of the kind of developers you really want on your team to make a game that lasts a long time.
What I'm surprised about with all of this is that they kind of abandoned the route that I thought they would have taken, that would have been the more common sense route, which is when you're comparing some of the character designs, there are some characters in Palworld, or some pals, that look very similar to Pokemon. Now, I still stand by Pokemon did the same thing with mechanics with Digimon. They did the same thing with ideas from like Ultra 7, you know, with we've talked before about like monster capturing. With Digimon, obviously, it's things like Mega Evolution. Digimon was doing those temporary evolutions for a long time before Pokemon came around and did it. Yokai Watch, there's some weird stuff where like Yokai Watch was doing things, then all of a sudden the Pokemon anime looks more like Yokai Watch, and the Pokemon games are more like Yokai Watch for a little bit while they were popular. You know, when you make these, it could all be coincidence, sure, but like my point is, I don't think Nintendo or the Pokemon Company or any of these people are above borrowing or repurposing ideas from other people for their things, and I've never thought that they were. However, if you're going to do that, I think you need to be, well, I mean, I guess you can do whatever you want, it's just hypocritical. But when you do that, and then you go after someone else for doing it, it comes off very hypocritical. And then when you have patent lawyers coming out and saying, hey, by the way, even if they win, all this is going to do is drain them both of money. And we're looking at Nintendo right now, which the Switch 2 is breaking records for sales for Nintendo. It shows them what they're doing here, no one cares about.
Yeah, it shows them that they're still on top, basically.
Well, and it also just gave them a huge legal fund.
Yeah, it did. It gave them a huge legal fund, so even if they do lose this, I mean, it's chump change to them.
Right.
But also, you know, when you think about it in a business perspective, most of the things that you're going to do as a business, you're going to want to make a return off of. And the fact that they went into this knowing that they weren't going to make much of a return off of it,
which there's no way they didn't
if
know.
At all.
There's no way they didn't know that.
Oh, they would know it from the lawyer counseling that they had, which they no doubt had. Basically, because they went into this knowing that, and we all know they know that, it's a petty thing. They're just doing it to be petty. It's like the mean girl in school who doesn't want you wearing the same signature color as her, so she makes fun of you to the entire rest of the class.
Joel's been watching too much Hillary Duff again on Disney Plus.
Yeah, true.
Going back to that example. No, you're right though, because when you look at it, what has happened so far? They're both losing money as the case goes on. Nintendo has far more money to lose, so we already look at that. That's already unfair. In pretty much every country in the world, if you have more money, the legal system is a little skewed. Then you look at things like the fact that they have, you know, they've had to change things, like the PAL spheres and gliding on PALs already, which we covered in a previous video. So far what's happened is they both lost money, and Pocketpair has lost parts of their game.
They have, yeah. And Nintendo doesn't care. They don't care if they're not going to make money off of this. I think they just wanted to make an example out of this. I think they wanted to show people, hey, you can't make anything even slightly similar to our Pokemon game.
Yeah, and not to say that we are legal experts, because we're not, but whenever we make videos on this, there are people who comment, which we appreciate. Sometimes people act like legal experts in the comments, and we don't know if they are or aren't, but I've seen people comment things like, oh, well, this wouldn't actually affect the distribution of Palworld, like it's something else. But then you actually have people from Pocketpair saying, just on record, this was going to affect our distribution of the game, so we had to change it. And when I'm looking at what the company is saying versus what a normal like YouTube commenter is saying, no offense, I'm probably going to hear the company that's being pursued in court first.
Yes.
And so to me, it does seem like in general, they really did have to begrudgingly make these changes in order to kind of protect themselves. And now one thing I was reading is they're going after Nintendo and basically looking to invalidate Nintendo's patents on these things and the Pokemon Company's patents on these ideas. Like that's what they're seeking. Like, so if Nintendo loses, they could lose key patents that I would argue they shouldn't have anyway.
They shouldn't have had in the first place.
I don't think you should be able to patent ideas like that for gameplay mechanics, but that's a lot that they could lose. Like key patents under their belt, they could lose those. They could be entirely invalidated. And if they win, they have so little to win except for the destruction of the other guy. How could this be anything except pettiness?
I just genuinely think it is pettiness. And what makes me sad about the whole thing is people are not going to care about this. You know,
no,
like,
they're already defending them in the comments and stuff. I mean, I would argue the majority of people are against this, but the fact they have some people so wrapped around their fingers that they'll defend them, like Nintendo could take some person, like some fanboy's mom out back and execute them and tell them that it was for the good of the Switch 3, and he'd believe them.
That's true, they would. I mean, look how many people bought the Switch, even after all of this came out. Like, even people who play Palworld and enjoy it went out and bought the Switch and were like, but the new Mario Kart!
Which, like, we're not trying to say you can't spend your money how you want. Like, I actually don't, like, at some point, I think it'd be cool to have a Switch 2 at some point in the future. But, like, watching them do this has made me actively not want to give them my money right now.
Yeah, it's very disappointing to see a company act like this, and I do think there should be some sort of repercussion for it. And I think even if they lose this lawsuit, that's not exactly enough repercussion for how much damage they have done to not only Palworld, but Pocketpair in general.
Even if they're forced to pay the lawyer fees for Pocketpair, which I don't know how that works in Japan.
I don't know.
It would still have damaged Pocketpair, their ability to have released games in that time. It would have split their attention, and it would have affected key mechanics of their game during that time. Like, you can't pay that back.
No, you can't. But hey, however, at least it got their name into some mainstream media, so there's that.
Yeah, I mean, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of extra eyes are on Pocketpair because of Nintendo.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the Streisand effect. It's Nintendo says, no, please don't look at Palworld. So everyone's like, what shouldn't I look at? And they all look that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's kind of why you also have to be careful with these things, is like, even if they win, they could end up making a martyr out of the Pocketpair group in general. You know, where they turn these people into the underdogs.
Yeah.
And that's not good for public perception of Nintendo.
No, it's not great. It's honestly, this whole thing is awful for the perception of Nintendo, and it's awful for the gaming industry, because if Nintendo does win, and we've mentioned this in other videos, it will ruin it for a lot of other gaming developers, especially in Japan, with like this dumb patent crap that shouldn't even exist. You know, it's just putting blocks on creativity. And I think that's ridiculous. Like, if I'm a painter and I'm a really big name painter, I can't just go tell the other painter across the street, you can't use the same kind of paint as me. That's cheating.
Right.
That's stupid.
But there are really dumb laws in patents and stuff too, and trademarks, where like there's a trademarked or patented or whatever you want to call it Xbox green that's just their color.
Really?
I don't know why. And nobody really goes around enforcing it.
So they're allowed to own a color?
Yeah, the legal system across the world is just dumb as hell in so many different areas. Where like,
what about Spotify?
I don't know. I mean, it's a different shade. It's a different shade.
Okay.
And that's what I'm saying, is like there's a lot of dumb laws everywhere. These laws of owning an idea, they're already really iffy. Imagine us as cavemen, you know, thousands and thousands of years ago, and someone says, you know, you story, me own character. Like, everyone would have beat that guy into a pulp.
Yeah.
Or laughed at them. But now we've allowed, like, these laws, not to be an anarchist, but we've allowed laws to infiltrate all of these artistic mediums in ways that are business focused and not art focused. And that's what leads to things like this.
And then Pocketpair comes along and makes something incredible, something very creative, something with a lot of time and love put into it. And basically Nintendo spits in the face of that and says, how dare you do what we do better?
Yeah. Or even differently. If they want to make these decisions, at least without looking hypocritical, then they shouldn't be borrowing or getting such heavy inspiration from other creature capture games over the decades too.
I agree.
At the Pokemon Company. I know the difference they could say is, well, we got the patent first. But even in our comments, there are people saying, oh, well, you know, prior art is not a thing in there in Japan. And even I believe this lawyer was saying it is. This patent lawyer was saying that one of their defenses is prior art, and it makes sense for it to be.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of people out there who don't really understand this lawsuit at all and are just kind of spitting out what they've decided as facts in their own
Which
head.
we're not trying to do. We're just trying to tell you the things that have been reported, kind of what we think about it. I'll tell you how I think it should be, but how I think it should be is not how it is. I don't think any of these laws should exist.
Oh yeah, they're all ridiculous. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this video, and when there's more to talk about with this subject, we will be talking about it just because I find it interesting, and I honestly find the whole thing surrounding Nintendo to be absolutely ridiculous. So we hope you check out my other videos, and also subscribe. And also, I have an awesome shop called CosmoBunny.shop, and what I do is I will take damaged manga, damaged comic books, different damaged things like that from my local stores, and I will turn them into resin coasters, resin keychains, etc. And I think they're all really fun and awesome. And then also, I have been recently making little resin studs. So I made like stud earrings that are cows, and I'm gonna make some more different shapes of resin earrings very soon on my shop. So I'm really excited about that. And I hope you guys go check it out. I'm going to a Comic-Con in September in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, so you guys should definitely check that out if you live in the Midwest area and can come to it. And before you go, I want you to know that you can use code SAILOR in all caps for 10% off of my shop. So any order that you get off my shop, 10% off, code SAILOR, definitely do that. And I'll see you on the next video. Bye!
Bye!